on the banks of the marvellous River Wye today, targeting a species many of you will be coming here to fish for, and that's barbel. Now, barbel can be caught on a whole range of tactics, but one that's very rarely used is the method feeder. Many of you will think that the method feeder is something that match anglers use on commercial fisheries. And yeah, they do, and yeah, they do catch lots of fish. But it's also a brilliant way of catching barbel on this magnificent waterway. There's a few key elements to it though that I need to show you before you try it, otherwise it'll be useless. And the main thing is the mix that I use. I start with a fish meal ground bait. This is marine halibut pellet, trout pellet powder, anything like that will work. Anything in your tackle shops with fish meal in is worth trying. But on its own, if you mould that around the method feeder, it would be virtually useless, because the moment it hit the bottom, if it hit the bottom in the flow, it would just cloud off, shoot off downstream and not draw any fish to it. Even the commercially available method mixes aren't suitable. They're still not tacky enough because they're designed for still waters. So I make my own. So I get a fish meal ground bait. Now you can either get a boilie mix, a neat boilie powder that you use to roll boilies with, or what I've got here is, in this one, this is Sticky's Active Mix, and this also contains boilie powder, neat boilie powder. And that'll really tack the mix up, and I'm using it at 50-50 with the fish meal ground bait. So I'll put that in. It's got lots of goodness, krill, again to complement the fish meal, and I stir it all in. So it's completely blended now. I've got a 50-50 mix between ground bait and boilie mix powder. Loads of good particles, keep that stirred up. Now, on a river, you want as much attraction as you can. You're using the flow to your advantage, drawing fish from downstream up to you. Now, of course, we need to dampen this mix, and that's just neat River Wye water. And you can use that, but what I like to add is some liquid attractor. It can be a whole range of things, from fish oils to this krill liquid, and I'll put that in. And you'll notice I'm putting it into a bucket of water and stirring that in, rather than what I see a lot of people do. They get a liquid attractor and they pour it straight onto the ground bait. And that doesn't allow for even distribution. And you want even distribution all over the crumb. So I put it in the water first, have a separate bucket, and then the trick is to slowly add it. Don't go crazy to start with and make the mix too wet or dry. You want quite an even mix. Here we go. Start to stir it in. It's starting to come together. You don't want it too wet though. I'll put a bit more in. Oh, I can smell that lovely aroma. Barbel are going to love this. Start to really whisk that up. And it's completely spread now. All of the krill attraction is throughout the mix, starting to bind together. And you'll see it's a lot tackier than normal ground bait. It won't just powder up and get washed away. Now, really, when you mix a ground bait up like this, you should leave it for 15 minutes. So there's some absorption of the water. When you get it right now, it will change a little bit in 15 minutes time, because it'll be absorbed in. So I'm going to just add a little bit now, because I haven't got the classic Blue Peter one I made earlier, because I'm making the mix for now. Okay, that I would say is about right. Starting to tack together, see? Pull together. Now you could stop there, but the important thing on a method mix is take your time to work it and make it right. What I use is a riddle. I'll put the ground bait on, and I want to make it nice and fluffy. And what that will do is help me when I'm moulding it. I'm sure many of you have had problems moulding a method feeder and it all falling off or not tacking up right, and it's just because you've got the ground bait wrong. But I find by putting through a riddle, I make it really nice and fluffy, and it always moulds perfectly. Okay, it's a bit laborious, but it's well worth doing. Preparation is always, in all forms of fishing, worthwhile. Doing it right, never rushing to get your rod out. Get everything right. So, I've worked that through now. I've made it nice and fluffy, lots of air in it. And now, I have created something the barbel won't be able to resist. But again, that's full of liquid attraction, full of fish meal, but to make it even better, a few particles in there of food items. So we've got pellet, and sprinkle that in. And all you're doing is trying to ring the dinner bell. Draw the barbel up to the method feeder. Because it's very tacky, they'll attack it, hit it, try and dislodge the particles. Hey presto, they find your hook bait next to it. They take the easy option, suck that in, and you catch one very quickly. What I would say is as soon as that ground bait's come off, so every 15 minutes you need to cast. These are little clusters, krill clusters, they're going in. Not too many. And I'll just give them a light whisking, not ruining all the air I've put in there. And look at that. Perfect. Few items of food particles there. They go in, and then we've got the method feeder. Now, there's two types I use, the Drennan and the ESP. There's no difference in them really. The only difference is the weight, but in the shape and form and the mould, which is really important, there's no difference. Now I could now just get that, squeeze a lump of it on and cast it out. Work perfectly well. Or there's a little mould you can get just to make it neat and tidy. Lower the boilie in, just rest it in the bucket, nice and easy. Sprinkle a bit of feed on there. I'll get my method feeder, squeeze it on, nice firm press, pull it out, and there you go. That's how easy it is to make a method mix. That'll stay in contact during the cast. Again, a lot of mistakes I see. The first one is that on impact after the cast it'll just smash off, so you're fishing with a frame. You're not even fishing with any ground bait. That's because it's too light, too wet, too dry. It's getting the right constituency. Here, it'll just hold in place, that'll sit on the bottom. The flow, because of the boilie mix that I've put in there, it's really tacky. The flow won't be able to knock it off. The fish will have to knock it off. You keep feeding that, and eventually you'll find your rod tip will start knocking, and you know they're a barbel in the swim. They'll hit that, they'll knock it, your hook bait will come off, lovely big food item, barbel will suck that in, rod go over. I've caught countless fish like this, far easier than PVA for introducing food items. And I would say this summer, if you're coming to the River Wye, this is my #1 tip. Try the method feeder.